Well, hello and welcome to today's webinar, the Alpha Anywhere Demo and Q&A webcast. My name is Dave McCormick, back from vacation and actually a little bit rusty at giving these things, so please bear with me. And today we have on the line with us Sarah Mitchell, our Master of Documentation, as well as our Documentation Manager. We have Chris Martin on the line, and we also have Dion McCormick. Dion's voice is a little bit shot today, so for those of you who are used to him doing the presentation, he is going to be on the sidelines. He'll be able to answer questions, but actually Sarah is going to be presenting today. And it's going to be a terrific session. It has to do with styling your applications. So let me go ahead and introduce you here to Sarah. Hello, Sarah, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. Let me go ahead and make you the presenter. Alrighty.
All right.
And now I can see your screen.
Perfect. How do I hide? There we go. All right. So welcome. Today is July 12th. Another Alpha Anywhere demo Q&A for you guys. I am taking over for Dion, who unfortunately, as you heard, can't speak today. So we'll just get right into this. Today we're going to be talking about something that we get asked a lot and can be difficult if you don't know how Alpha's styling system works. So styling your applications in Alpha Anywhere, and specifically Alpha Style Sheets, our version 4 style system, and how you can add your own customizations without needing to modify the original style sheet that we ship. So Alpha Anywhere is now on version 4 styles with the release of, I believe, Alpha Anywhere itself, the .0 release. We moved forward to version 4 styling system, which includes your Alpha style sheet, your iOS 7 style sheet, the Android Light, and the Android Dark style sheets. And I also believe the iOS style sheet is included in that list as well. And these style sheets use a different way of defining how the structure of how things are styled, so like how buttons within grids are styled, or how a drop-down on a UX component is styled. And that's different from the older version 3 styles, which are your GR Blue, your GR Olive, those ones that you may have seen when you go into the style editor when you're picking a style sheet. Pardon me. So with versions 4 styles, because the layout is different, our old style builder didn't work with it, so we created a new web style builder to handle working with these style sheets, and I will show that to you now. So before I created this, before I started, I created these two copies of our Alpha style and our iOS 7 style, so that's what these are. But if you come in here yourself, and you haven't created any style sheets yourself, you haven't ever opened one up before, you'll just see this list on the side here. It is a list of Alpha, the Android Light, the Android Dark, the iOS 7, and then all of these GR and MOB styles. The GR and the MOB styles are version 2 styles. If you try to edit those, you'll get the old style theme builder. If you select a new one, though, such as our Alpha style, and I'm going to edit my local style, which is exactly the same, just renamed, you will, first you'll be prompted to copy it if you come to this interface, and then you will be presented with this new style theme builder. And just to explain what you see here, in the upper left corner here, we have our preview of all the different controls. So if I can go down here and maybe look at my buttons, here I've got my base button, I have a confirm button, a deny button style left and right. On the bottom here is the code, and then on the side here, this is a part selector. So if you're here and you're like, I want to edit the deny button, I can click on this edit button, and that will populate this box over here. You can also use this top drop down to pick what you want to edit. So edit, it would be like a text editor. It would be your edit class, your tabs. Here's that base tab pane here. If you see, this is the base tab. If there are sub-themes associated with a particular part, they are listed in the second drop-down. So this is the bottom sub-theme for the tab. I believe the tab control, or a tab pane. And the difference between that and your base is the base is located at the top, and the bottom subtheme locates the tabs at the bottom. In addition to what you see here in the code, notice down here is code is selected. This is the code editing interface. You can also select the Adjust tab. And what the Adjust tab does is it lists all of our Sass variables that we have defined in the style sheet or that you have added yourself for quick editing. So we have font families up here. You can come up here and maybe change that to a different font. You can use this drop-down button to pick a new color for each of these colors, and these variables are used throughout the style sheet, so you can do a wholesale color change without having to hunt down every single instance of #0df to change your accent color. So if we toggle back to the code tab, those variables are defined right here in the top, and we have this comment format that is used, and that's how that Adjust tab is populated, is using those comments with that information. So that's how this is our web theme builder for version 4 styles. I had mentioned earlier version 3 styles, and I'll show you quickly what that looks like. If you come back through and selected something like GR Gray, when you'll be prompted to copy it, I'm going to put a 2 there. And this might take a moment to load. And then this is that old style builder that I was telling you about. It's not as nicely laid out. I mean, your design is separate from your code, so you don't have that nice feedback, the visual feedback with the version 4 style editor to see what your changes are while you're editing them. So that is our new web theme builder. And another thing you may have noticed in those themes when we were going through them, like when I had the button selected or the tab, there were subthemes. And subthemes are basically a variation on the base theme for a control. It's a way to define another style or look for something like a button or a text box or a drop-down control that lives in its own separate space from the base, the core definition, so that you're able to add as many different styles as you need to accomplish your goals. And subthemes have been around for a while now. I believe, here's an example. So here's that base theme. This is the base button theme for the alpha style sheet. And within that style sheet, we've added a bunch for you that ship with Alpha Anywhere. We've added a confirm, a deny, a left, and a right. There are a few others, like there's a small version if you use the compact theme. So each one of these, they're different, a little bit different from each other. And within Alpha Anywhere, you can assign a subtheme just by choosing a confirm or deny or left or right in the editor. So I have this small example here, and just to show you that, here over in button appearance for this selected confirm button, there's this subtheme property. And in here you can select from all the different subthemes that are available, both ones that are in the style sheet that we ship and any that you add yourself. Which brings me to my next slide, which is style tweaks. Style tweaks are new. They were added with the release of, I believe, 4.4.4, which is out now. And what they do is they allow you to extend or modify an alpha style without editing the style directly. And that is extremely important. Before style tweaks came along, if you wanted to make a change to the style sheet, you either had to know that you could define code externally in a CSS file and link it manually through the properties in the UX component, or add the styles yourself in the CSS properties in the UX, or copy the original style and add your edits there. The problem with copying a style is that if we decide we want to release a new control, and then just to point this out to you guys, we are releasing new controls. We have a new expanding menu control coming out. We have new editors. We have this new numeric keypad editor. Drop-down spin lists that are coming out. If those controls require that we extend our own style sheet to support the display to fit within the theme of what we have out there, when you copy the style, you're not going to get those. You would have to recopy the style, add all your own changes back in every time that we shipped an update that modified those style sheets. So with style tweaks, you can add your changes, and it does not require that you copy the style, which means you'll get the new changes without need to worry about anything, and you'll still keep your edits yourself.
Oh, I get it. So it's sort of like an overlay on top of the official styles that Alpha Anywhere sends. So when they update the underlying one, your changes aren't lost.
Correct. Yeah. And this is, it's a long-standing complaint when, we're adding new controls all the time using that new More interface, which is in here under Data Controls, More. We're adding new controls in here all the time. There's the expanding menu. There was the integer value. There was the semicircle number display that came out for creating nice little semicircular charts. We're going to keep extending Alpha with new controls in here. And for us to be able to give you the best product, we have to be able to update our style sheets. So to tweak a style, you go into your UX Builder, you go to the Properties tab, and you find there's this property here called Style Subtheme and CSS Tweaks. And you open that, and you'll get this box, which on the surface doesn't really look like you're going to be able to do anything here. So just to point things out, though, down here at the bottom, we have Add Subtheme and Preview Subtheme. So if you wanted to add a new subtheme for, say, a button, you could edit the style sheet directly using the Web Style Builder, or you could come in here to the UX and add a subtheme here, which is what we're going to do. I'm going to demonstrate this right now. So when you click that link at the bottom, Add Subtheme, you're going to get this Select Subtheme dialog. And in here you need to do three things. You need to select your class that you want to create a subtheme for. You need to select the subtheme that your new subtheme will be based off of, and then you need to give it a new name. So we're going to create a new subtheme for the button, which is right here at the top. And I would like to copy the left. So it's going to be based off of left. I'm going to call this my custom subtheme. And I'm going to click OK. So what this does is it does two things. One, it creates this JSON, which defines how Alpha needs to apply classes when certain events happen, such as when the mouse hovers over the button, when the button is pressed, or when the button is disabled. The second thing that it doesn't do it for you, it won't put any CSS in here, but there's this second CSS tab where you can come in here and add your own CSS for that subtheme. So I would like to change this to button custom and change all the hover, pressed, and disabled to custom hover, button custom pressed, and button custom disabled. Because I'm going to add classes that define each one of these, or add my own classes to define how this button looks. So before the presentation today, I came up with some CSS that I copied from that button left because I really liked the little angle indicator that was defined in the before property, and then made sure to style everything real nicely. So I'm going to copy this out of Notepad and paste it in here and make sure that I have custom pressed, custom disabled, button custom, button custom. Okay. So to explain what's going on here, in this custom CSS that I've come up with for my button, I've defined two Sass variables, one called orange, one called pale yellow. These are colors I wanted to use throughout the theme. So under button custom, I have this color orange, and the background will be pale yellow. And the before, which defines the little arrow that appears before the text, that uses borders to do that. And I wanted to make them orange. So the border top color and the border left color are both orange here. And then finally at the end here, when hovered, I want the colors to flip. So I want the text color to be yellow, and I want the background to be that orange color. I want the border in the before section to also be yellow because I've changed the background color to orange. So when I hover over the button, both the border and the text will change to be a pale yellow color. Same with pressed. Here's an example here. When I press the button, I wanted it to be this funky green, light green color, and a dark green background, but I wanted to leave the border the same color, that pale yellow. And then finally, if it's disabled, everything is gray. The color and the background is gray, and I don't touch the orange definition for the border that we defined up here in the before section, so that will remain orange. So assuming I did all of this right, this second link down here, preview subtheme, will let you look at your subtheme. And it looks like I made a mistake in my hover. So let's go look at that. Custom hover. I don't see an issue here.
There's something like trying to troubleshoot while you're doing it live.
Yeah, it's always hard to troubleshoot these things when you're doing them live. Something always goes wrong. Something went wrong like a while ago when I was showing these guys earlier. Anyway, I'm going to click OK just to see if it was possibly just a fluke. Anyway. Oh, it was. It didn't capture that. It just didn't preview properly. Yeah, so here's my new subtheme here. When I came over, so let's go through this again. I have this button here that I want to apply my custom subtheme to. So I'm going to select that button. I'm going to come over here to the button appearance subtheme. I'm going to click the three-dot button. And then I'm going to select my custom subtheme, which if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, it will be there in the preview. And I'll click OK. And then we'll preview it. And there's my button. So that's adding a subtheme. Obviously, we have a little bit of work that needs to be done with this preview. I will tell you guys that we are actively working to make this interface better. We're integrating this preview into the theme builder, so you don't have to go through this two-step process to try to see what you're doing.
Oh, it seems to all be working now, though. So. The beauty of the pre-release version, right?
This is the pre-release version too. Yes,
yeah,
it has some weird quirks. Yeah.
So, Sarah, you had mentioned a few times Sass, S-A-S-S, and if you could, I know not everyone here on the call is familiar with that term, and probably some people were looking at that CSS and said, I know a little bit about CSS. I don't remember being able to put variables into my CSS, so I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So Sass is it's a
syntactically awesome
style sheets. It's this extension on top of CSS that allows you to add variables, because one of the things that can be frustrating about working with style sheets is having to be so literal with all of your properties. So if you want to, make maybe you want to add a border that's gray around all of your buttons and all of your, maybe all your headings, but you don't want to wholesale apply that to your entire website. So you have to go through and add those styles to each item individually, and then if you want to come back through and make a wholesale change, make everything pink or make everything gray or orange, you have to go through and find every single instance of where you define those colors and manually change them to a hard-coded value. With Sass, you can define that color as a variable. So in the example they have here at the sass-lang.com/guide, the Sass basics, they have this example here where they've defined this primary color variable, and it's $sign primary -color : and then #333. So you can define at the top of your CSS or really anywhere where you need it, a Sass variable in Alpha Style Sheets, and then just use that variable everywhere. Use it down in the body. You could apply it into your buttons. You could even just use it as a anywhere basically in the style sheet.
So now it was my understanding that that browsers themselves don't know what to do with Sass.
No, they don't. Yeah, Sass is it's pre-processed. So when you add these variables, you can work with these variables with Sass in your style sheets, and then when Alpha Anywhere publishes your application, it pre-processes all the Sass into CSS. So it would go through and do a wholesale replacement of all those variable names with their actual value.
Great. So then the browser knows how to read it. Very cool.
So then the browser knows how to read it, yeah.
So just as a reminder, this is a Q&A session, and I'm not seeing a lot of Q's here in our Q&A session. We have actually quite a few people on the line, so if you guys have any questions at all, please type those questions into the questions box at the GoToWebinar control panel. They also don't have to be style related. They can be just general Alpha Anywhere questions. We do have a couple other extra people on the line to answer them.
Definitely ask your questions. So that was adding a tweak. One thing I wanted to mention is when you've tweaked something like the alpha style sheet, which is what I've done here, the style name was alpha. The tweak applies to alpha styles. When I go back in here and I decide I want to edit the alpha style sheet, it will actually only show me the tweaks that I added here. So I didn't copy the alpha style sheet into my project, but I added a tweak using the UX interface. And one of the things we are doing moving forward is we're changing the way this web theme builder opens. It will actually open in a tweak state and not ask you to copy first, which should help
yeah, which is the way
give you another way to extend the style sheet. It's the way you want to do it anyway. We want to kind of shy away from copying the style so that we can continue adding new controls and maybe even fixing bugs if we've goofed on something. Or, a new iOS comes out and now all of our iOS styling specific items don't work anymore. So we have to come in and update that for you. So if I come down here and I select the button, which is now, see how it's black and all the other ones are gray, it's because that subtheme has been defined in here and I can see it here. And make updates as I need to if I wanted to change it back to red or something.
Cool.
So.
If I can interrupt you with a question, a Sass question. The question is, do you have to download Sass or link to some sort of special file to use Sass in Alpha Anywhere?
No, Sass is included with Alpha Anywhere. You don't have to download anything.
It just works. Yeah.
It just works. All the style sheets we ship with all the version 4 style sheets use Sass variables, so we have to ship it. Otherwise your product wouldn't work. Yeah.
Right, so there's nothing special you need to do to make it work. Just go ahead and use it.
Correct. Just start using it.
And I presume besides Sass here, there might also be some Sass documentation in the Alpha Anywhere documentation set? Is that...
We link to it.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a... I can just go look real quick. I'm pretty sure I linked to it. I remember putting the link in there. Yep, we do, right in the style sheet documentation, which I included in the post earlier to everyone, which we should probably resend later in the presentation.
Oh, yeah, good point. For those of you who have all versions of GoToWebinar control panel seem to be different depending on operating system and a few other things, but most of you will have a chat window in your GoToWebinar control panel. And if you take a look at that chat window, you'll see that we have pasted in some links for you to you probably just want to go ahead and grab those and paste them someplace, and they'll cover a lot of the stuff that has been covered right now.
And I'll post those again. So tweaks, you can add sub-themes to anything in our style sheets. Not all controls currently support the ability to select a sub-theme. I know that the date time picker, somebody had requested recently to want to be able to sub-theme that. You can create a sub-theme, but there's no way to actually assign it. So that's on our list of things to add for you to make sure that you can do that. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was style placeholders. And I don't know if very many people are familiar with this, but in Alpha Anywhere, you can reference a style in a style sheet using this syntax here on the right. And on the top there, the version 3 style, it was curly braces, dialog.style, curly brace, and then the rest of the class name. And in version 4, we use this bracket theme colon and then the path to the class. So in the case of the basic button class, it would be button.base.classname. And using those placeholders, you can actually dynamically style items that they'll pick up whatever the current style sheet is, so you don't have to be very explicit in the style names. And to show you, to explain this to you, I've got this static text here, and I want to style it so it looks like the confirm button when I'm holding the mouse button down over it, which is slightly darker green in the alpha style sheet. In different style sheets, it has a different behavior. So you could come in here and go into this class selector and add all the button classes that you know that it needs. It needs to have button so that it renders like a button. It needs to have the button confirm style because I want the confirm styling. I don't want just regular button styling. And it needs to have the pressed class while it's pressed down. Click OK. So that will give me the style I want. But if I come in here and do something like change this to the iOS 7 style, the styling is lost. It doesn't look anything like the confirm button when I'm clicking down on it, which makes this kind of pale green color. So the way to address that is to use the placeholder, which in version 4 styles is this bracket theme colon button dot base dot class name bracket plus a few others to get the press state. And there are two ways you can figure out what those are. The first would be going into the web theme builder and looking at the style sheet itself, which might actually require copying it in this case, and finding the button and finding the confirm button, and then looking at selecting what you want to apply. So we know we need like the base class name, and we know we need the button pressed information. So when you select one of these, all the way down at the bottom, there's this thing. It says path colon, and then underneath it says button.confirm.classname. That path is what you need to put after the theme colon part. So I would need button.confirm.classname, and to include the pressed style as well, I would need button.confirm.pressedClassName. So that is one way you can find this. The second way you can find this is on the Properties tab, or Properties pane in the UX component. And we have this thing called Class Map. And if you open the Class Map and click on this link at the very, very bottom that says Show the Default Class Map, and type in, say, grid button, you will see, you'll see the wrong one. You'll see the version, the old version 3 style version. So version 3, it was that bracket grid dot style button. I think I need to change this to alpha so that it will show the right one. There we go. So here we go again. So see here we have class.gridButton equals button.base.className. And for pressed, it's button.base.pressedClassName. So I have already copied these to my notepad. And I've applied to what I need. I need the regular confirm, and I need the button confirm.pressed. So I'm going to copy these. I'm going to close this. Go back to controls. I'm going to change my class, and delete what was there, and paste in the two themes. And then we'll do a preview. And you'll see it has that green text, and that matches the confirm when I click on it. And now when I go in here and I change it to another style, like, well, let's go pick a different one. Let's go pick the Android Lite. Now,
They match.
see how it looks? They match. And I didn't have to do anything. It used that dynamic placeholder, basically. So that's how you can reference your styles in a way that makes your application a little more portable if you want to be able to offer different types of style sheets.
Excellent.
And I have reached the end of my presentation. So I will go ahead and post those resources in the chat window again. This went much faster than I thought it would.
Well, that's great, actually. We have,
Well,
half an hour. 30 minutes is usually what we shoot for. So we do have some questions which we're going to take, but I think we're going to have time for even more questions that are in the queue. So if people want to start typing in additional questions, go for it. Again, they don't just have to be on style. They could be in anything that has to do with Alpha Anywhere. But the first one, we are going to talk a little bit about style. And the first question is the tweak ability available in grids, or is it just a UX thing?
You can edit the tweaks in the UX, but tweaks apply to I believe they apply to the whole application.
Right, so there's no interface for editing them in the grid. Which would be a nice addition, actually, now that you think about it, if we've got that ability.
Let's go look at it. Actually, it might be there.
Let's take a look.
We have the customized style and fonts picker, which, if you haven't used this before, it's just a shortcut to edit the Sass variables, which edits the whole style sheet.
Right.
But it does not look like we have a way to tweak it here. But I believe if you do something like body background, let's make it orange or yellow or something like that. I believe if you do something like that, it will pick up on the grid that tweak. We're just going to test this right now because I'm curious.
Because it's always good to test these things live. Yeah.
Absolutely. You should always test everything live. Everything live. Just no practice. Just do it live.
All right.
No, it does not pick it up.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
We can take a look at that, and also we will make that suggestion back to our development team that we have this apply to grids, because it would be a very useful thing for grids as well.
Right.
Here's just a general question, which we'll get to at the end, but typically these webinars are recorded and posted at videos.alphasoftware.com as well as on YouTube. The last couple of sessions, while I was not here, I'm not blaming anyone, but it looks like the recordings didn't turn out as we had planned, so they are not going to be found there, although we are going to be redoing studio versions of the topics that we covered, and they will be posted, just to let you know. But typically we try to get the YouTube ones up, and the ones up on Viddler and our video library, usually within about 48 hours. So let's see. Oh, here is a question. Dion, this might be one for you if your voice can stand it. That is, can you copy files from Amazon S3 to the local file system on a mobile device using PhoneGap? Or it could be a question for Sarah if you know the answer.
The answer is yes.
Yes. All right. Does anyone want to show how that's done?
I believe we use Action JavaScript to do it.
Very good.
And we have a file upload. We should have a file download. PhoneGap file download.
Although that might be for getting it from...
Oh, that's the destination.
Right. I think that's for taking it from like your local browser or something like that. I don't know if it's from S3.
That is a good question. I know you can do it.
Okay.
I don't think this is the right action. So this is a Dion question.
There's a really good doc. It's called the AA Storage Doc that was put together by Kurt Rayner, who did the original work. I have the PDF here, but it's on our, but it goes through all the different commands that are available, both in XBasic, which is really powerful because then you can manipulate things through XBasic, but also talks about the the Action JavaScript and other pieces that are available there. So I don't have a demo for it, but I would suggest if we could find that. I'm trying to find the...
Yeah, I actually I've done this for somebody that I'm working with, and I just have to pull all the code out. There's a little bit of code involved, and maybe I can demo this the next session as part of whatever you're going to be demoing next week. I can put together a quick demo on how to download the files from S3. There's a little bit of code involved in doing it, but yeah, it can be done. I've done it before.
Chris, that's great. Thank you very much. And in the meantime, if you have the person who asked the question, if you have more information or something else specific that you'd like to see, just go ahead and send your email to guides, G-U-I-D-E-S, at alphasoftware.com, and we'll check that out.
Actually,
also, if any of you out there... Yeah.
Actually, I'm working with the person that posted this question, and I owed him the answer at the beginning of the week, but I just have not gotten to it yet. So I will be getting back to him first because he asked the question last week.
Sure. All right.
And
wonderful. If you could share the rest of us, that would be cool. Another style question: is there a way to apply a custom subtheme on a list control button?
So on a list that has a button on it?
Yeah, or do they mean the button set that you sometimes add to a list for navigation and stuff like that? I'm not sure.
It sounds like they mean a button in the list, not a button for the list.
Okay. That makes sense.
So I'll just do that.
While you're taking a look at that, someone has a licensing question, and if you have a licensing or sales question, just send an email to sales@alphasoftware.com, and we have a team there who will take care of it, see what you have, see what you need, and get you all squared away.
It does not appear that we have the subtheme option. You could, though, I think you can try to use the placeholders that I talked about earlier, but I'm not confident that actually would work either. Button, deny, class name.
Buttons in a list, that's a good one. Tweaks.
Oh, it doesn't even show my button. Huh.
That's what I love about these sessions. We get very good ideas.
Yeah. This is also weird. This is in a weird state. Why is this in a weird state? This is a pre-release. You should not be demoing things.
Well, that's what we do here, is we show you. We have it break so you don't have to break it at home. Another quick question had to do, you're showing off in the documentation some of the new editors. And one of the questions is, do we plan to have like a calculator, kind of like the 10-key style editor? Will that be one of the ones that's included?
Yes.
And it will be. Okay, great.
It's the numeric keypad editor.
Okay.
And we have this in our documentation now, I hope.
Yeah.
Numeric keypad. So that's the new editor.
This one is neat. And the one that I saw recently I thought was also really cool, and that was the alphanumeric one. So anyway, sorry, to find the documentation for this one, just do numeric keypad in the
yeah,
search.
and I will,
Right, exactly.
I will copy this link for you right in the...
Yep.
There you
And
go.
as you can see at the top, it is tagged as a pre-release feature. I have it on good authority that the pre-release will become an official release very, very soon. We're just trying to track down a couple of small issues. And that should be in the door within, I'd say, a week or so, something in that range.
Yeah, I hope. We have the number pad. We also have the alphanumeric keypad, which you mentioned, which has two layouts, the small one for a phone and the large one for a tablet.
Yeah, the small one is cool because it kind of is like how people used to do text messaging, And the benefit is of course, that you don't hit the wrong button. The buttons are big enough to be displayed. So.
Right, and you can add your own custom buttons. I believe they occupy this space right here. This looks like a custom at and a custom dot.
Yep.
And then we have some new spin lists for like picking date and time and date time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So that's all coming along very soon.
Excellent. Here, okay. It's a good general purpose question, and that is, how can I submit only selected rows from a multi-select list to an AJAX callback? Dion, that sounds like a seat of your pants demo coming up. Sure. How can I submit only the selected rows from a multi-select list control? So you have a multi-select list control, and you've chosen 3 things, and you want to then submit those 3 things to an AJAX callback. Can you show just sort of the basic way of doing that?
That's a good one. I haven't worked a lot personally just with the multi-select pieces here.
Multi-select.
So the
All
idea is the grid, if I understand correctly, to make sure I understand, is that you have a list control and it's multi-select. And I assume you're editing items in that list with a detail view, because the grid itself, the list control itself will only do incremental updates. So if you haven't edited items in that list, then it's not going to update those items. I mean, it's smart enough to know.
Right, it doesn't send everything back. It just sends what's changed, right?
Right, it does what's called an incremental update. And the incremental update is kind of shown. And actually, there's a way to modify that. So if you don't want an incremental, I can show my screen real quick. I can show you kind of what it looks like real quick.
Sure.
Let me go ahead and do that real quick. Share.
Let me go ahead and make you the presenter. Okay.
Okay. So you can control that a lot. So let me go ahead and go to a UX. See if they did that one. Yep. Okay. So I've got a list control here. And when you're at the list properties, there are a lot. The key thing here is in the detail view, because the detail view is what's actually modifying the record. And so you have the list control, which just think of it as like your local database, where it's the little thing managing the JSON locally on the device. And then in your detail view is if you make a change in the detail view to a record, it tells the list control what's been updated. So it's tracking which ones. And so a couple things you can modify is first, you have a synchronization policy. And this is kind of nice, is that if you want it to automatically try and synchronize those changes without the user having to manually synchronize it, you can do this. You can do a perform a client to server synchronize when a user saves an edit in the detail view. And also you can enable it so at the same time it tries to pull down any new things on the server. So that's up to you. And there's certain performance aspects that go with it. But what you can do also is, where is that? Let's see. So that's on those pieces here, and then list. I'm trying to find where you can set the specification of, let me go down here. I mean, I usually, it handles those pieces there, so I may not be understanding the question correctly. You can, yeah, no, I guess it's on the detail view. So let's go to the table properties here. It's not on there. Okay, these are the customizations to the look and feel. And then, here you go, okay. And then we have update which fields. This is the other one I wanted to show you. So again, Alpha is tracking what records have been updated, and also within a record in a detail view, which fields have been updated. So it goes down to the field level. And therefore, when it does the synchronization, it's going to be comparing things all the way down to the field level. But what you can do is that if you want to make sure that not only the fields that have, the person has edited, you can put in here all fields, and therefore every time someone edits a record, whether or not they, once they edit a record, any field in that, then it'll automatically force all the fields up top. And that's kind of nice because you may behind the scenes be editing field information when the person edits and things like that. So that just handles a little bit of the housekeeping for you. But as far as a multi-select, you set the multi-select in the list properties right here. So what this mainly says right here is that normally a list control is a single select control, meaning that, and you'll notice in a few moments, is that on my list control, it shows all these, but I can only select one thing at a time. With multi-select, it allows me to actually select multiple items at one time, and it gives you some behavioral items here, whether it's a control click or a click, and on the phone it's going to be a tap gesture. It's just going to default to the tap gesture. The benefit of that is that you can select multiple items, and then behind the scenes you can ask that list saying, hey, which items have been selected? So like for instance, think of a shopping cart where I'm in and I'm putting together a or actually I just did a demo this week where I had a situation where someone was building an estimator for some home products. So you go in and you create a proposal, and then on that proposal would be a series of items, essentially a bill of materials. And so the way I did it is that I opened up a list, and every time you touched an item on that list, it basically added it to that. So you were essentially like a shopping cart touching items there. I could have implemented it using multi-select, where I bring up that list, I select all the items I want, and then hit a button, and then in that button I could read what items have been selected, and then insert them all in batch into there, which I'll probably go back and change because that tends to be a more natural kind of behavior where I want to kind of select all the things I want and then add them to my cart. So that's the idea of multi-select. Now, what I'm a little confused about the question, maybe they can illustrate it, is that multi-select is just selecting items in the list control. If you're using a list control to edit a detail view item, well, the detail view is going to automatically for that field say, okay, they've changed the modification. When you click save on the detail view, it's going to mark that field as updated with the data that came from that list. So I guess maybe a little more data I might be able to help out. But I appreciate the question because multi-select is very powerful from a behavioral standpoint. When you want to say, hey, here are a list of 5 choices, you can select any number of those. You could all do it on one screen, hit a button, and then you can read from that list which items have been selected.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Dan.
Yeah, I hope that was helpful, and I hope, so.
All right, let me see what else I've got here. Oh, here's a styling question, which is how do you set the font size and the width for a spin control?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Who wants to jump in with that one? Or
let's do it. Let's do it right now. I can do that.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make you. I'm going to make you the presenter there, Sarah.
All right. So when you say a spin control, I assume you mean a spin list control?
Spin list, yeah.
Okay.
So there we are in the UX, and you've just added a spin list control.
Yeah, so I'm just going to make this easier to look at. So over here in data controls, there's this thing called spin list.
Mm-hmm.
There's a spin list control. And you wanted to change the font size?
The width and the font size.
Okay. So this spin list, the width.
It's not that exciting a spin list though without data in it, I guess. Probably needs.
Well, there's no data in the spin list. I could put some data in it.
Let's do that.
Let's do that. Let's get some static data. Let's do a predefined list of weekdays.
There we go.
Okay. And so go to working preview. There is our spin list. You can, the width, it has a property called width. You can make this, you can define the width in the spin list properties itself, which will make it wider.
Now it's wider. Mm-hmm.
Now it's wider, yeah. If you want to change the height is actually defined on the number of lines or a physical like dimension. So if you wanted to show 2 lines above and below, again, that's the width and the height are spin list properties. So now you see 2 above and below here.
Yep.
But the other one was wanting to change the
The font size. Mhm.
Right. So let's look at, there's multiple ways you can do that. I believe you can do it with a class, but to make sure, well, let's do it with a subtheme. So I'm going to add a new subtheme. I'm going to select the spin list. Let's make it small font. I'm going to select the base. Click OK. And I'm going to add a new class. I'm going to call it small font. And go all the way to the bottom of the CSS that I have defined over here. Add dot small font and do font size 2px because that is quite small.
I don't know about 2. All right.
You don't know about 2? Okay. And then preview subtheme. See if this works. Argument is incorrect data type. Okay.
Oh, nothing like a pre-release.
Awesome. Nothing like a pre-release.
There's also the possibility. It looks like there is a.
I need to select it.
I see. Yeah.
I need to select the subtheme. So we'll go in here. Oh, it's not there. That's what that error was. It didn't save it. Oh. So we'll try it with a style.
And that looks like it applies to the field label. I don't know if that applies to the thing itself, does it?
I would assume that it would apply to the spin list itself.
Let's take a look.
Oh, you're talking about down here. Yeah, you are right. That does apply to the field label. Oh. Oh, no. You got me. I think you do it with the subtheme because there's no option in here.
That is something we should be able to answer for you very easily. If you want to send that into guides, guides@alphasoftware.com, we will get back to you personally and show you exactly how to do that. Because
yeah, that should be.
There was a class thing for that one. Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've had to do this before. Spin list group. Small font. Last ditch effort to try it in this editor here.
All right.
And this is the web theme for Alpha 2. So I wanted to change it to an Alpha 2 style. I think. Yeah. And it just made, well, it made everything quite small, but it didn't change the text. So we need to look into that and figure out why.
Okay.
Why that's the case. Yeah.
That sounds good.
One thing you can do if you're not quite sure what it is you need to edit is to use this run working preview using Chrome and then open the Chrome debugger and inspect an item.
That actually brings me to one of to a question that someone asked, which was when you actually let me read the exact question so that I say it right. And it was, what is sort of your favorite browser tool for viewing a page source and debugging style issues?
My favorite one is the one that's inside Alpha Anywhere because I don't have to launch a separate web browser to debug. But every web browser has a debugger, and I find that I prefer the Firefox one over Chrome or others.
Over Chrome?
But,
yeah.
Yeah, that just stems from issues, though, because I have an issue with my video drivers, and Chrome uses the GPU to render pages, and sometimes I end up in this bad state where I can't see anything because it decided that all web pages shall be black today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but in terms of debugging, if you need to debug events, like JavaScript events, definitely the Chrome debugger, hands down, is the best one out there.
Okay. Can you just show a quick example of, I don't know, maybe open up a web page in Firefox and
yeah.
debugging a style issue, maybe making a tweak?
Yeah, let's do this here.
Okay.
Let's use this one here. I'll just save this real quick. And up here in the toolbar at the top of the UX, there's this, right next to the New button, there's this drop-down you can open, and you can, if the browser is installed, you can open the component in that browser. And I'm going to select Firefox and do full preview. Well, I always do full preview just in case it hasn't been, if the files haven't been published into the live preview folder yet. And then once here, I can open the tool, which is, it's F12. There's no good way to show you how to open the web developer tool from the menu because it's not something that web browsers are big on people knowing about. But if you hit F12, it'll open up this inspector at the bottom. And then you can use this little element picker to hover over the item you want to look at. And you know, as you dig down into things, it highlights what you're looking at. So I want to look down here at that spin list control to see what specific class was applied to all those items.
Let's see where we can find that font setting. Exactly.
Spin list item, right?
Spin list
So
item.
I want to edit that. So I'm going to edit it. I'm going to add a new rule. I'm going to call it spin list item. I'm going to say font size 2px, and now it's tiny. So now I know this is the class I need to use. So I can actually copy this, go back into Alpha, find, well, I'm going to close this first. I don't need the Chrome debugger open in Alpha. Go back here, get in my subtheme, remove this attempt earlier to make a subtheme. I'm going to delete it too. Remove. And I'm just going to wholesale change the whole style sheet. So I'll come in here into my tweaks and add spin list item font size 2px and do a live preview. And now
there it is.
Spin list font. It's so crazy small.
So
no one
let's
can read it.
yeah, okay. But since we've actually now answered that question, let's go back over and show you sort of step by step what you need to do to change the font size so that.
All right. So to change the font size for a spin list control, you need to change that spin list item class, which will be specific to the style sheet, unfortunately.
Okay.
So we figured out what that was by launching the component in a browser where we could inspect it to see what the class name being applied to each one of those elements was. This is the Firebug debugger in Firefox. It was spin list item. So back here in Alpha, we went to the Properties tab. We clicked on Style, Subtheme, and CSS Tweaks. We opened that up. We went to the CSS tab. We added .spin list item and then specified our font size. And then for fun, let's make this 25. And then click OK. And that will apply to the
There it is.
sheet. And there it is.
Fantastic. That's great. Yeah, that was the request. Can you make it really big so that we can see it? And yeah, you sure can. So great. Excellent. Well, Sarah, thank you very much for going over this. Dion and Chris, thank you for jumping in and helping. We have come to the end of our time here. If you do have any questions for us to cover next week during our webinar, actually next week we will have a special webinar which I'm going to be going over the PumpJack Pro application and showing you how to pull it apart and make changes and edit it and turn it into your own mobile inspection applications. That will be a special session. And then we will resume with our general Alpha Anywhere demo and QAs the week after that. In the meantime, though, if you have any questions, we can answer them well before then. Just send them into guides, GUIDES, at alphasoftware.com. Also, if you want to see a video recording of today's session and the prior sessions, except for the last ones in the last 2 weeks, you can go to videos.alphasoftware.com. They're also available on YouTube. So thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you at a future webinar. Take care, and goodbye.